Chancellor, welcome to Bloomberg TV. We were just listening together to some of the headlines coming out of the Trump administration. Mr. Ross saying that exports are holding up in the UK, especially manufacturing. Mr. Mnuchin saying that actually they're ready to negotiate a trade deal when the UK is ready. When will the UK be ready?
Well, we're obviously in a process of negotiation with the European Union, and we won't be free to commence trade deals with third countries until after the transition period that we're negotiating right now with the European Union, which will probably be about 2 years after we leave in March 2019. But that doesn't mean we can't start negotiating the deals, putting them in place to become effective once that transition is over.
Mr. Mnuchin yesterday in Davos is saying that actually a weak US dollar is good for the US economy. Are you worried that we're re-seeing currency wars resurge?
Well, I hope not, but he's obviously right that the softness of the dollar is helping US exports, US manufacturers reassert their position. And to the extent that that helps to answer some of the questions in the US about the global trading system, make Americans feel that the system is fairer to them and ease some of the pressure around the trade system, then I think that's a good thing for all of us.
The pound has been appreciating quite a lot. Therefore, would a weaker pound significantly help UK exports?
Well, look, the UK is a very open economy, and a weaker pound has two effects. It helps our exports, but it raises the cost of our imports. And one of the challenges we've had over the last year or so has been that a weaker pound has led to higher inflation and stagnant real wages. And that's driving some of the challenges that we face at home. So getting that inflation rate down and a rising pound will help to do that, helps to drive increases in real wages, and that's good for our economy and good for our society.
So is there a sweet spot?
Yeah, there's a sweet spot.
Where pound is?
Actually, over the last few days, we've seen the pound appreciate against the dollar quite rapidly, but it's pretty stable against the euro. So we're very happy with where the currency is at the moment.
OK, so today is the kind of sweet spot, what we've seen in the last couple of days. Chancellor, when you look at the cabinet in the UK, is there now a consensus amongst the cabinet what kind of relationship the UK wants with the EU?
We're all clear that we want to have a good deal with the European Union, the closest possible access, the greatest possible level of access to reciprocally to our markets, so that all the supply chains, all the business relationships that we've built up over 40 years can continue. But we also want to build our trade links with the rest of the world, recognising that the fastest economic growth is coming in areas beyond Europe.
Should the UK stay in the customs union?
Well, we won't be able to stay in the EU customs union because we won't be members of the European Union. But making sure that goods can flow with low friction across the border between the UK and the EU is very important to both sides. So I'm sure we will want to form a close customs agreement with the European Union to make sure that happens.
But if the UK's position were to stay in the customs union, it would also solve the Northern Ireland question.
It would, of course, resolve the Northern Ireland question, but there are many other ways that we can do that.
Chancellor, with passporting out of the equation, what kind of financial services agreement are you hoping for?
Yeah, financial services have to be part of our relationship with the European Union because they're such a large and important part of our economy. And we can operate without passporting through some kind of enhanced equivalence regime, but it has to be a regime that is robust and that is objectively determined. It can't be something that is dependent on the whim of the European Commission. It's got to be more robust than that.
What would it exactly look like? And will we find out in the next couple of months?
Equivalence is fine, so long as equivalence is objectively assessed, not politically determined.
Right, but how, again, I mean, the framework for that is what?
Well, we have to negotiate that with the European Union. But the UK's financial services sector is larger than the rest of the European Union's put together. So, we have some negotiating weight in this discussion, and I hope we will be able to come to a sensible solution that recognises the challenges, has an architecture of regulatory and supervisory cooperation, which makes both sides feel comfortable and allows European Union real economy companies to gain the benefits of access to UK's financial services market.
Chancellor, do you expect the details of the future relationship between the UK and the EU to be laid out clearly and in full by the time Parliament votes on the withdrawal deal?
Probably not the full details, but we would expect the high-level shape of the future relationship to be emerging by that time.
Okay, talk to me about Bitcoin. Will it be regulated? Are you interested in Bitcoin regulation?
I am interested in Bitcoin, and the Bank of England, as you know, among the central banks, has been leading on looking at Bitcoin. Look, it's a very interesting new development. I think we should be cautious about Bitcoin, and possibly we do need to look at the way we regulate this environment before the amount of outstanding Bitcoin becomes large enough to be systemically important in the global economy. It's not there yet, but it could get there soon. What is really important is that in regulating cryptocurrencies, we don't inadvertently constrain the potential of the technology that underlies it, the blockchain technology, which has a wider and more important application.
So does it need to be done at the G20 level?
Yeah, I think it does. It needs to be done at international level, and of course it will be on the agenda for the G20 meetings in Argentina.
Chancellor, when we go back to some of the things that we heard from President Trump earlier this week, it was about tariffs on washing machines, on solar panels. Are you concerned that this will hurt UK and some of the exports to the US?
Well, we're always concerned when we hear any of our important trading partners talking about restricting trade, imposing tariffs. We are a medium-sized but very open economy. We are very clear that we benefit from an open trading system. So we always try to encourage our trading partners to keep the system as open as possible. But we recognise the concerns that there are in the US system about the fairness of trade. And as I said earlier, hopefully the depreciation of the US dollar and the opportunities that creates will help to create a sense of a more level playing field without necessarily having to reach for tariff solutions.